The Survey of the Public Participation in the Arts is the nation's largest general population survey of arts participation trends. We conduct it every few years with the U.S. Census Bureau, and since 1982 we've tracked such forms of participation as people attending arts events, people participating through creation or performance of original artwork. We track whether people go to arts lessons or classes, or whether historically in their lives they've had arts lessons or classes, and whether they participate in the arts through media, including new technologies. And the survey has been conducted 5 times by the NEA since 1982, as I said, in partnership with the U.S. Census Bureau. In 2008, shortly after 2008, we released a series of materials that we hope provided a lot of information for the field and for researchers as well as arts practitioners. Soon after the survey results came out, we issued a series of trend tables looking at results for all of the forms of arts participation through attendance going back to 1982. We also unveiled a raw data file that can be used by researchers to understand how Americans participate in the arts. We then issued a combined data file which really took together results throughout all the survey years to make it much more easily aggregatable and subject to studies from future arts and cultural researchers. Finally, we released a data user's guide for cultural and arts and cultural researchers to really dive down into the data themselves and to teach them how to use this enormous resource for understanding how Americans participate in the arts. All this information can be found on our website, arts.gov/research. And of course, we also released this report, the picture of which you see here, which is a combined analysis of the survey. Shortly after that, we released results having to do with arts through media. This was, again, using the survey data to look at questions such as who participates in the arts through electronic media, inclusive of internet use, how often do they do so, for what types of arts activities and art forms. It turns out about 53%, over half of all U.S. adults reported in 2008 having used electronic media, whether some of the older media, including TV, radio, and some of the newer ones, CDs, DVDs, but also handheld mobile devices and internet use to access a variety of artworks, and also to create through the arts, so all of that really came through, I think, in this study which we released last year. Now I'm just going to show you a couple more slides. This one shows you, this is essentially the basic narrative, I think, that people walked away from the study knowing. If you've heard about the Survey of Public Participation in the Arts, or if you know that the NEA conducts this study, you're probably familiar with the widely reported fact that our data show proportionately fewer adults attending arts performances or going to arts museums over time. It turns out that going back to 1982, classical music plays particularly saw serious declines going back from 1982 in the proportion of adults who said they had attended at least one arts activity in those genres. But what's striking is when you look further into age groups, you also saw that young adults in particular, 18 to 24, 18 to 34-year-olds, show consistent patterns of decline when it comes to arts attendance measured by these forms. Ballet and to some extent art museums also saw declines starting from 1992 or 2002 in the case of art museum attendance. We also know that jazz and opera for the first time in 2008 saw declines in arts attendance, statistically significant declines in arts attendance. So what does this mean? Well, besides just being a spot for potentially bad news about attendance, it tells us a lot about what we need to know. We decided soon after the results were released that we really didn't have a complete grip on what arts participation looks like throughout the country, even using the fairly limited resources we have. The SPPA data does tell us, in fact, a lot more than just about attendance. It turns out that it also tells us a lot about arts education, which we now know, as you'll be seeing through a study that we'll talk about today, how closely correlated arts education is to overall arts participation. And I'll just talk briefly about these 3 studies, and I'll let the authors speak about them themselves. But you'll first be seeing Nick Rabkin and E.C. Hedberg from NORC at the University of Chicago talk about arts education in America, what the declines mean for arts participation. You'll see Mark Stern from the University of Pennsylvania talk about age and arts participation, a case against demographic destiny, where he's looking at age and year of birth as factors related to arts participation. We also will finally be seeing Jennifer Novak-Leonard and Alan Brown from Wolf Brown talk about a study that really attempts to push the envelope in thinking about arts participation beyond attendance. So it's called the multimodal understanding of arts participation. And our goal with these three studies, with having commissioned these three studies and proudly promoting them, is really to convey a sense of impact through arts participation so that you understand potentially these are ways we can help to grow audiences in the long term for arts activities. And beyond that, to look at what does it mean to participate in the arts and how can we track it more effectively and therefore show total impact of the work that we all are doing to promote arts participation in this country.